Today, I'm over in Loch Lomond Marina Park, which is located in San Rafael, California. And look, I said it right. People have been correcting me. Don't know why it's pronounced like that. When I see Raphael spelled like that, sounds like that's how you say it. But whatever, doesn't matter. We're here at the marina, and I'm gonna walk around, show you guys the area, and we're gonna talk about how bad shoplifting is getting. Because some areas in particular are getting hit harder than others with it. And we already know that San Francisco across the bay here is one of them, but it's not just them, okay? Different areas like Washington, D.C., New York City, and Portland and Seattle, these different areas are all getting hit with this epidemic as well. There was a story about a grocery store out of Washington, D.C. called Giant Food. They have had to spend 300 grand in security after a huge uptick in crime that they've been seeing over there. Instead of shutting down the store, which probably most people would do, they're saying, you know what, we're gonna just hang on because we want to try and keep our business going rather than just give up. And think about this, guys. This store has lost $500,000 worth of groceries, which is equivalent to about 20% of the location's sale. They spent another $300,000 trying to get this place up to par when it comes to preventing further theft. That's 800 grand so far down the drain. So they would have to sell a tremendous amount of groceries in order to make up for this. And it's getting so bad over there that the criminals are loading up grocery carts completely full to the top and then just walking out the door. Why are they not stopping them? Why aren't they doing anything about it? I have no idea. I don't know the situation there, but this is getting crazy. According to the manager at the store, he said that workers have stopped about 135 shoplifters since the start of the year, but more than double that number have gotten away. So they've only stopped like 1/3 of the shoplifters. The other 2/3 of them are getting away with it so far. It's getting to the point where people don't even want to shop there anymore because you go in with your kids and you're just trying to buy groceries, but you got to worry about some sort of crime spree happening and the incident escalating to the point where it's dangerous for your family. You know, like I remember growing up and going grocery shopping with my mom all these years, and I never felt like it was dangerous at all. Boring, absolutely, but dangerous, no. There's like a whole nother element to this now that people don't even feel safe going grocery shopping. So you know it's getting out of control. And one thing they're trying to figure out, is this just like another criminal enterprise that's trying to steal all of this stuff? You know, we see these mass robberies at the big retail stores where they go in and steal as many things as possible, as fast as possible, and get in and get out. Or is this people who are just desperate and don't have the money to actually pay for groceries that are doing this? I have no idea. They're trying to figure that out still. If you ask me, it's probably a little bit of both. The president of the giant food chain is saying that the violence and the theft at these stores have increased tenfold over the past 5 years. And the last thing that they want to do is close stores because it makes it harder for local residents to have a place to shop. But if they keep losing all this money, they're going to have no choice. So it's a real ridiculous thing that's going on when it comes to all of this. And you know, it's one of those situations where everyone gets punished because of a few bad actors, right? You have, you know, maybe 400 people stealing from the store, but they're stealing so much that it ends up making it so they may have to close, and everybody else who actually shops there and pays for the groceries, you know, ends up paying for it in the end in the form of having no grocery store and having to drive much further to the other side of town and possibly pay more, wait more, spend more on gas, travel time, everything like that all adds up. So it really is a big inconvenience for the local residents that this is happening. A lot of people like to think like, well, crimes like this are victimless crimes because no one's getting hurt. Well, the people that live in the area are going to get hurt if these stores end up shutting down. And if you think that's bad, whatever giant food store is going through, it's much worse at Target, okay? Target has been in the news several times over the past year when it comes to how much retail theft is going on over there. And they literally have made themselves a target after starting to introduce this whole LGBT clothing line and everything. There's been a huge pushback against that. People are not happy. It's causing people to go into the stores and do all sorts of things, you know, threaten employees, destroy merchandise, things like that. But check this out. Shoplifting that included violence of threats surged 120% during the first 5 months of the year at Target. The CEO is coming out and saying that the employees there are now facing an unacceptable amount of retail theft and organized crime. And he's saying that safety incidents that involve theft are now moving in the wrong direction. So obviously this is pretty bad news for Target. And of course, it's not just Target that's losing money. You have the National Retail Federation. They surveyed about 60 different retailers, and last year there was about $94.5 billion in losses throughout all of retail for the 60 different retailers that they surveyed. So obviously it's probably a lot higher than that when you factor in that they didn't talk to everybody. But they're saying the number one source of most of the theft that's going on, in fact 37% of all theft, is coming from external theft, which is when people just come in and steal a bunch of things, especially the organized retail theft where they just come in and you have 10 guys with masks and, you know, run through the store and grab as many things as they can as fast as possible and run out before anything can be done about it. Now, another place where shoplifting and theft has been such a big problem is in New York City, and now the businesses over there are coming up with a new strategy to try and fight against this, because a district attorney over in Queens has recently told all retailers from mom and pop shops to department stores that if they get repeat violators that come in and steal things and just try to get away with it, well, now they're able to obtain trespassing notices against these people, and if they come back to the store, they will face arrest. So it's kind of crazy that they won't arrest people for theft because the laws on the book won't permit it, which is kind of similar to what's happening over here in San Francisco. But they can arrest you for trespassing, so it's kind of like a workaround for coming back when you're not welcome. It's just so crazy, guys, to me that it comes down to that, where you need to change the reason someone's getting arrested from one crime to another because the other crime's not severe enough. It's essentially what a law like this says. But it's just another one of those workarounds that probably isn't going to work, because what's happening is they already put a little pilot program together over there to see how well this would work. Basically, they handed out 82 trespassing notices so far, and only 5 of those people have been arrested. So clearly not enough people are being arrested. But one shop owner over there in New York is saying that this new enforcement is starting to work because people were coming in and stealing all sorts of things from his store pretty much daily. And ever since he enrolled in this program, that his store has been much safer, and he hasn't experienced another incident yet. As soon as the shoplifters find out that hardly anyone's actually getting arrested for this, likely they'll still continue to take the chance, because it's just an odds game that odds are you're not going to get arrested. So on the one hand, I think it's good that they're trying to do something about it, but the reality is, I don't understand why don't they just get tougher on crime, guys. I understand that stealing, $200 worth of merchandise from a convenience store is not a serious crime in terms of, getting you locked up with rapists and murderers and whoever. But if they don't do that, if they continue to just let these things go, it's going to be one of those problems that just continues to get worse because no one's looking at it and no one's doing anything about it. But it is nice to hear that the district attorney over there in Queens is actually taking a fight against this, and she said that we're not going to allow small groups of individuals to terrorize our shopkeepers, their employees and customers, and continue to disrupt our local economy. But because when the local businesses thrive, the community in general thrives. So at least they're taking aim at this and trying to do something, but I feel like it's one of those things that just isn't going to be enough. And in New York, it's getting bad, guys, because in New York, the New York City mayor, he said that shoplifting incidents have increased by 44% in 2022 compared to previous years. So this is what happens when the laws are lax on crime and don't care about locking people up that need to be locked up, and instead are just focusing on trying to shift the focus to technicalities on who can be arrested for what. And it's like a small group of people, because it says that last year alone, 327 repeat offenders were responsible for 30% of the more than 22,000 retail thefts across the city. Why can't they go after these people? Why can't they make exceptions, and change the law to where if you are a repeat offender and form it around them? Like if you have stolen X amount of merchandise this many times, then you are put in the same level of prison of people who are killing others and doing really bad things, because obviously these individuals are pretty much the majority of the problem. But apparently the shop owners over there in Queens are happy with this response so far, because probably they're thinking, well, it's better than nothing and I'm seeing an improvement, so for them it's better than it was before. But I think it's not enough, because when you have 85 people getting served these trespassing notices and only 5 of them getting arrested, it's not enough, guys. Like, it needs to be all of them, okay? Or at least the vast majority of them should be in jail. And this increase in shoplifting is really bad news for retailers, because retail has already been hurting. We have covered several times here on the channel on how so many of these retail locations are plummeting in value. You have malls at the top of that list, along with office buildings that are not doing good. Commercial real estate in general is on a huge decline right now. And when you throw this shoplifting into the mix, you already have these retail buildings that are losing value because of the economy and where interest rates are at. But throw all this shoplifting into the mix, well, now you have a real problem on your hands. And speaking of malls, I want to thank Steve for sending me this story about a mall that sold way below what the value was back in 2012, guys, because so many people think that real estate always goes up in value and nothing bad can ever happen when you're a real estate investor or you own real estate in general. And it's just not the case, especially with commercial real estate right now. There's a mall called Crossgates Mall in Albany, New York, and the appraised value back then was $470 million. And because the appraisal came in so high, that was good enough for lenders to give the property owner $244 million in loans against this property. And in 2020, the mall was reappraised, okay? And the value was lowered to $281 million, which is still more than the $244 million in loans, but not by much. They had a 10-year mortgage, because commercial real estate doesn't get these 30-year mortgages like we do on residential real estate. And that loan expired in 2022, but they were able to get a 1-year extension until May of 2023, right? So after that, the owner of the mall was not able to refinance. They were not able to extend the loan any further at the favorable interest rate. So what did they do? Just what all these other commercial real estate owners are doing right now. They're defaulting on the loans. They're just not paying. So now the situation is the lender of these loans technically is able to foreclose, but instead of foreclosing, they decided to put the loans up for auction and sell it to the highest bidder and let someone else take possession of the mall. So this property that was once worth $479 million, it's just now sold for $173 million, guys. And after liquidation expenses of $30 million, the net proceeds were $144 million on collateral that was appraised at $470 million back in 2012. So that is insane when you look at this, and just how much these retail spaces and commercial spaces are going down in value right now. And if you don't think that this problem is going to have some contagion and spread to the residential market, then you're not paying attention. Because when all these big companies and investors are losing money, they're going to tighten up. You're already seeing the banks tighten up lending, and it's getting harder and harder for average people to get a mortgage. So that's not good for the housing market. When we start hitting more distress in this economy and more people want to sell, the problem is the buyers aren't going to be there because the prices are too high, interest rates are too high, and banks don't want to give loans to anybody. So the housing market is getting threatened from all different angles with this situation. And it's not just investors that are losing money, but the owner of this mall obviously lost a bunch of money because they paid on this 10-year mortgage for all these 10 years. And now that the mall pretty much got repossessed by the lender and sold off to somebody else, all that money is gone, guys. These type of incidents squeeze a lot of capital that could otherwise be used for different expansions and starting new businesses or whatever out of the economy. And that's the other part of this puzzle that a lot of people are missing when we're seeing this happen. For some reason, a lot of people just think that all these problems with the commercial real estate are just not going to have an effect on residential. And I just don't think that's true, because our economy today is like a spider web. You know, it's all intertwined. And what we're starting to see is all different commercial real estate owners having trouble, and the delinquency rates are on the rise. In fact, in July of this year, the delinquency rate of mortgages on retail properties that have been securitized rose to 6.9%. The dropping delinquency rate between 2017 and 2020 wasn't because the delinquencies were cured, but because they were resolved. And what that means is basically they did a foreclosure sale or a loan sale like we just talked about. So whatever just happened with this Crossgates Mall will bring it out of delinquency, and this will pull those loans out of the delinquency rate. But when you look at this graph, you can see how much delinquencies are starting to go back up on commercial real estate right now. And there was a huge spike back during the pandemic, the highest it had ever been, and came down substantially, but it still never came quite back down to pre-pandemic levels, sort of. But as you can see, it is now back on the rise. And obviously, this chart goes all the way back to 2007, and you saw it on the rise back then as well. So this is going to be a big problem for the economy, just like all these other problems that are happening with China and everywhere else, and it's all going to affect us over here. So if I were you, I'd just be keeping all of this in mind right now, and don't bury your head in the sand. Be mindful of all these issues that we're facing that are all coming together at once, by the way. It's not like, oh, this is happening now and you know, next year we'll face different problems. No, we're facing all these problems simultaneously, and to me, that's the biggest problem, because all these things are not going to be able to be resolved overnight. And because we're facing so many issues all at once, I think it just compounds all the issues that we're having. It's going to take it longer for everything to resolve, and who knows what things are going to look like in a year from now, guys. So just be careful if you're out there buying a house. Make sure you're staying out of debt. Pay your credit cards off on time. Don't carry credit card debt. Just be a smart consumer right now, because that'll put you light years ahead of a lot of other people that are thinking that whatever's going on right now is just going to last forever. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next one to come out, check out this video on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.